So she was told, and she was coming from the country, having procured some leaves in order to make the tea, because you drink the tea and it helps that way. So she was coming, and there was a spot check or the police, and she began to
To
worry,
quiver.
to quiver and say, what is happening here? And she said she fretted all of the way when they unloaded everybody from the bus, and we're doing random checks, and she saying, pray God, say, oh, Father,
Don't let them find me with my ganja.
don't let them find me. And she said, no, she prayed and anything. But it is very good. It's very medicinal. A whole lot of properties. And I've read of instances like in a lot of states in the US, they have released it, made it legal to do for medicinal purposes. And
So you gone all the way to the States? You don't know that it is so in Jamaica too?
yes, I know, but
Oh.
that's where, because just in recent times we have said it's okay to use it for medicinal purposes. But I've known of instances where children who have had fits, and there's none of the
You call
medication.
fits. Better known as
Fit.
epilepsy.
We call it fits, epilepsy. No fits, we call it in Jamaica. If somebody have fits, I will speak in the vernacular so people can understand. So if epilepsy, what is that? Fits. Yes, so we call it fits in Jamaica, but epilepsy.
It's
And
a fit of epilepsy, and they just drop off the of epilepsy and stop at fits.
yeah, but we it's been used, and it allowed for the child to come off the other medication and be using the marijuana, the drug that came from it. So it has a whole heap, and we have not begun to really fully explore the medicinal impact. I know Israel has done a lot of research in terms of the use of it, and some people are just catching up in terms of the scientific use of the many properties, the flavonoids, the different things that are present in the good old sensimelia, that's what we call it, sensimelia, marijuana, ganja,
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, all the different names that we've come up with. But as you speak about that and having the plant, I've been pondering on the heart and why the heart is so important in terms of our interactions and what we do with each other. Because it is our heart that basically indicates what we do. There was a controversy that Jesus had with the Pharisees, and they said to him, how come him not watching him hands? Him just go about and he's not adhering to our protocols in terms of preparing food and eating food. And he said to them, you guys are so concerned about what is going in, but the more important thing is what is coming out of the heart. And that's found in Luke 6 verse 45. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. And I remember a caller was saying, yeah, let's not talk about people's heart. You mean the heart that, you remember that conversation?
Oh, the bloody organ.
The bloody organ. I said, no. The heart, our understanding, is the seat of your emotions and your thoughts. And so it's important that you guard your heart, because out of your heart proceeds all of the issues that are related to your life. And this morning I'm reading from a devotional, and it speaks to this. And can we just listen? It says, where does goodness come from? And how can you cultivate more of it in your daily decisions and actions? Some people think goodness is a matter of the head, and that right thinking results in right living. That's true up to a point. Today, every politician gives the impression that education is the panacea for practically every problem in society. Yet education of the head without the same emphasis on integrity of the heart will produce only clever beings or thieves. If education alone were the answer, white collar crimes would likely drop. SSL. Others think goodness is a matter of the hands. They say goodness means treating people well, but doing good does not make a person good. Murderers on death row may be good to their mothers, but they are not good individuals. Truth is, goodness is not located in the head or the hands. It is hidden in your heart. Jesus, best man who lived, said, a good man brings good things out of the good stored in his heart. Goodness is not merely a matter of what we know or what we do. It is a matter of what we are. As you consider today the life ahead of you, what really matters is not how long you live, but how well you live. Sir Francis Bacon once said, of all virtues and dignities of the mind, goodness is the greatest, being the character of God. And without it, man is a busy, mischievous, wretched thing. So in your desire to be good, draw closer to God. After all, you become like the company that you keep. So let us guard our hearts. Let us do a lot to facilitate that our heart are thinking a lot of good things. We often speak about psychosomatic illnesses, and as somebody who has to deal with a lot of individuals who come to me and they're struggling, and in a sense, is there somebody that has done something to you that you have not truly forgiven? And when we check through, ask relevant questions, something happened, and the person, as we said, say in Jamaica, they have up the person at them heart. And I said, unforgiveness for a lot of us, this is one instance, it's like you drinking the poison and expecting the person to die. And so it is important that we guard and watch our hearts and don't hold anything up in our hearts, but release it and allow for God to do what only He can do. So that's just my simple thing this morning. Let's guard our hearts. We have often said on this program, it comes back to what is in our hearts. And if we look at it in a wider scale, even in terms of a lot of things that happen, what is motivating people? What is in people's heart? What is in the hearts of our leader? More interesting, what is in your heart, even as you deal with persons that you relate to on a single day, on a single basis. We look at some people and say, my bad heart, because we're looking at their actions and say, no man, him heart no good. Those things that he has done, he has a bad heart. Ensure that you do whatever within your power to ensure that your heart is good, that you have a good heart in terms of the people that you interact with every day. And you go back to my simple mantra, love God with everything that you have. Love your neighbor as yourself. And you know you're good to go. What say do you this morning as we know? Matters of the heart?
Always matters of the heart.
There's a song that one of the Marley sing, Affairs of the Heart. You know that song?
No, sir, you'd have to sing.
You know that song, they producer? Affairs of the Heart. I don't
Pastor will have to sing it. That was my request.
No, sir.
If you're going there, you have to sing it. There's something that I wanted to discuss with you.
About the heart?
No, not about the heart. It was Professor Rex Nettleford's birthday.
Last week.
Yes, and
there are a lot of things.
Yeah, Orlando Patterson gave a lecture.
I saw that. I never read it.
And the subject matter of the lecture is what I wanted to raise with you.
That we need to be paying?
No, he was speaking about, let me find it. He was speaking about what happened with slavery in Jamaica. And he had done the research to show that Jamaica should have over 5 million people. He called it a Holocaust, the Holocaust of slavery.
Mm.
That Jamaica should have more than 5 million people at this time
Mm.
when they do the mapping of how many persons.
5 million?
Yeah, well, he says it robbed us of 6 million persons. Slavery's Holocaust robbed Jamaica of 6 million persons. I found the
Over time, you
the
said over the
subject
400
matter.
years?
No. The Hebrews were taken to the Americas, to America, United States of America, compared to how many came to Jamaica, how the population in America grew from their small number while the population in Jamaica declined. And at the end of slavery, had like 300,000 people when America had over 2 million. Let
Same
me
amount of
share
people,
it.
yeah.
Yes, but the reasons that he gave, based on his study, what he pulled out of the historical details was what accounted for what transpired in Jamaica. The brutality towards the slaves in Jamaica is at the heart of it. Mass raping of women, which led to the women contracting venereal diseases from the planter class, which stunted their fertility, and the malnutrition. They did not feed the slaves properly. It's a horror story, and it's something that I believe Jamaicans should contemplate soberly and just understand that even when we talk reparations, why we speak reparations and the necessity of it. I mean, we've gone through that on several shows. We have spoken about the need for repentance and forgiveness to complete the healing of both the abused, both the victim and the abuser. There is a necessity for it. Whether they have made the British society or inheritors of the wealth that was stolen from us, they may be just thinking about who's going to write that check. But it does tie a little to your matters of the heart issue. But they must know that the loss, the damage goes way deeper than how it hits your pocket.
I mean, in the psychological impact.
Yeah, and in the spiritual realm, where, man, we had a conversation with one of the callers yesterday. I think it was maybe your final call. I was speaking about
Love.
oh no, it wasn't with her, the gentleman before that. We're speaking about the necessity for our leader, our prime minister, standing in the office of prime minister,
Yeah,
to
take responsibility.
take responsibility for the injustices perpetrated by that office. Not by him, by that office. Because I was saying, when God looks at humanity, he doesn't see us separated into all of the things that we do to separate ourselves. He sees his family that he created. And much as we saw Abraham grow from one man into a nation of
70,
countless
from
numbers,
70 to
and
4 million.
we saw Jacob, Israel, grow from 70 people to exiting at over 3 million of a mixed multitude, going forward into history as the tribe or the nation, the nation of Israel. So it is, you look down, what you see is Adam's descendants. That's what you see.
That's all he sees.
Yeah. So when you sit in the office of the prime minister, you become liable for the misdeeds. Let's say, take Andrew Holness, Prime Minister Andrew Holness in the moment. When he sits there, I'm looking at a picture of P.J. Patterson. He's sitting in the chair occupied by P.J. Patterson. And whatever was done during that watch falls on his shoulder, whether it is to repair it, to build on it, whatever it is, it's a continuity
of the office. And that is a very, very, very significant and important point that we make, because in the in the U.S.,
the president
is the office of the president. You might think the person is despicable or the worst.
Yes.
But it's Mr. President is the office, and so it says that's why the wording pray for leaders, because the person in the office, a whole lot is riding on his shoulders,
yeah.
and they need to recognize they can't
Yes.
say, they can't
Divorce themselves from the behavior of the former holders of the
yeah.
office. And the Americans take it to an even more, I would say, ridiculous extreme, because even when you demit the office, you still carry the title and weight of the office.
Yeah. I mean,
So you're never step away from that
being-
honor, that responsibility. Good morning. So here we are now. The office
of the prime
has things for which it is accountable, and there are things that need to be done. And I've said that our prime minister, the one in this season, with the blood that is flowing across the land, and this is what makes it real for him, the blood that's flowing across the land, the cause of it originate before, maybe even before he was born. Not maybe, before he was born. There's no one who could say he is the cause of it. It is his fault.
But
Yet he is
the only person who can shift and change it. Leadership.
It is now his time.
And
It's
you,
his
and you have
time.
to understand the weight of history on his shoulder. He speaks about legacy all the time. He's the only prime minister me here talk about legacy, So, brethren, my leader, whether
You call him brethren.
my leader, but it is important that he recognizes just how important it is. And we talk about reparations, we talk about land. We see a picture of him in Manchester where he was distributing land title. This is this thing with reparation. There's a lot of things that is right there now that he can fix. And even most important, he's the only prime minister we've had that was born after independence.
All right, so let's go back a little in the past now. Oh, we're right up on 6:59. When we come back, I'm going to share with you what Professor Orlando Patterson had to say concerning this part of our history, and just see how we can use that knowledge to strengthen ourselves and to address some of the issues we're confronting today. It is now 7 a.m., still a bit cool here in Kingston, but we are happy to be welcoming you this free-flowing Thursday. We'll be right back. Please stay. Good morning again, and welcome back to those who are joining us for the first time this morning. We are here as we normally do on Thursday mornings. We're at the Ligani Club. You see the beautiful outdoor setting. We're enjoying it. It's a little bit okay. So, those of you who are experiencing real winter,
Yes, yes, yes,
but
yes,
you see,
yes.
I'm in my sweater and I'm shivering. We are sitting smack in the middle of the Ligani Plains. This is a wind channel right from the Blue Mountains down to the sea. You can't tell it, but I'm feeling it. Well, welcome especially to Madame Cheryl Nelson, who is giving us a cheerful good morning, and to Conrad in Canada, where it is genuinely cold, reminding us that Mama P, PJ Patterson, and Michael Manley were all prime ministers of such fine excellence.
Oh,
My
geez.
words.
Hey.
Oh, please like, subscribe, and
But
share.
those two persons are out of the diaspora, out of Canada itself, you
Yeah,
know.
Canada is giving us some love this morning. Good morning to you all and those who are on air. Sorry that you won't get to call us, but do stay tuned. I want to share with you the highlights of the Orlando Patterson lecture in honor of Professor, the late Professor Rex Nettleford, who was the ultimate Jamaican. The man was creative. He danced, he choreographed, he was erudite, he spoke well,
Remember, he
and
came up
he
with
was
this
an
expression between bends.
Oh, that
That
was
was
it.
one of his
He was
favorites.
creative. He's trying to keep me warm. All right, the producer is giving Percival some very complex instructions, which begin with "move away from your co-host." He just knows I'm cold. You know how it is. All right, so the Orlando Patterson lecture was significant in a particular respect. Not many of us even contemplate how different the experience of the chattel slaves in Jamaica would have been from slavery elsewhere. I think we all see slavery as slavery. But believe me, there were levels of brutality that Jamaica experienced way beyond what was happening elsewhere. And inquiring minds probed the subject matter and looked at it from the perspective of the population growth in other jurisdictions where
Relative to
slavery
us.
was being relative to us. So let me give you the highlights. In 1830, this is 8 years shy of
Emancipation.
emancipation. In 1830, the slave population in Jamaica, including the free colored men and women, was 359,000, thereabouts. Of that, I think 319,070 were the actual slaves. The rest were the colored, mixed race. This 359 slaves represents what was left from a total of 1.07 million Africans imported during the period 1650 to 1830. So Jamaica received on her shores 1,000,007 Africans. Compare that to the United States of America, far greater landmass. In 1830, they had 2 million plus of Africans, descendants of slaves. They had imported, over the same period, 1650 to 1830, they had imported 388,233 slaves. So the reverse to what happened in Jamaica
So over the period
took
of
place in
180
America.
years.
Yes. America's stock of 388,000 slaves
Became 2
grew to 2 million under their hands. In Jamaica, Jamaica's stock of 1,007 slaves decreased
by
to
600,000.
359, of which you can really take out the 59 because only 319,000 slaves, actual slaves, were in Jamaica. The population did not grow. In fact, Jamaica's practice of slavery was typified by, let me use his words now, Let me use his words. He says, Patterson said the treatment of blacks in Jamaica was among the most brutal meted out to Afro-descended people brought to the Americas by traders. The audience heard how slaves from Africa to Jamaica were regarded as disposable. And we had looked at that other case of the ship that
Yeah,
was
right.
carrying, and they
They
threw
threw
off
them
half of
overseas,
them as
and it
cargo.
became
And the only issue was whether the
insurance
insurance
claim.
would cover it.
Insurance claim because
Yes.
they were considered chattel.
They
Not
were
any,
cargo.
yeah, cargo.
Yes.
The man was trying to make a claim. Him should I get back his
To
money?
get back his money for the cargo that was
It's like you're
disposed
throwing
of.
rice or flour overseas. You know that
Yeah.
normally when you have you go into a situation where you're going to
Bad weather.
bad weather,
Yes.
they make it lighter and they throw things
Right.
overboard. Like
'Cause
what
we
happened
know
in the
with
gospel.
Jonah.
Yeah, with Jonah, but not with Jonah, but also with Paul too. With Paul,
Yeah.
when he was going to Malta, and they said, in order to, they started throwing
They
stuff.
started to throw cargo
And they
and
were thinking
ended
of
up
throwing
without
this.
food.
Remember, they were thinking of throwing the slaves overboard, killing them.
Yes.
Yes.
Off camera, Lowell was saying that is how insurance was originated, needing to cover cargo lost at sea. People realizing that that's like really throwing money in the water. How do I secure myself against that? So in Jamaica, slaves were regarded as disposable. They were worked mercilessly hard, fed poorly, exposed to debilitating diseases, and routinely replaced by new slaves. So most of that 1,000,007 that came in were to replace slaves that had been mistreated and died.
So even if you take into consideration that they would have reproduced,
Yes.
even that was a challenge too.
Yes,
Yeah.
now we come to that. Slave women were sexually violated by their white owners, with many young females contracting venereal diseases within 3 months of arriving in Jamaica. Reproduction was discouraged because of the high levels of infant mortality, and owners preferred not to take responsibility for the pregnant female or the child as they could lose on their investment. Important points to note is that in Jamaica there was a mass rape of women, and that is something that he said cannot be overemphasized. For a long time, the study of slavery in Jamaica neglected that fact. And Orlando Patterson made it absolutely clear in his own study of slavery that there was mass rape of women. The mass rape of slaves by whites led to chronic venereal diseases. And it comes out clearly in recent documents on the sex life of the slaveholder class. Venereal disease very negatively is related to fertility. So when the babies don't die as infants, the women are inhibited in their rate of reproduction because of the diseases passed on to us. May I associate myself with them now? Passed on to us by the slaveholder class. And you see, much as we were talking about the leader, each prime minister who sits in the chair of a former prime minister being liable and responsible to address matters that were incomplete or not well done, or even many times we see them taking credit for the gains made by their predecessor in office.
It's all right to take the gains.
So
man, but
it is.
They must take the bad things.
Take the licks.
They're not going to take
So
that.
it is that for us, standing in the place of our ancestors, we must continue the fight for justice, for the settling of these matters, for reconciliation and for repentance. It is a continuous line. That's why even when people talk about inheritance and legacy and so on, it flows, as you say. You can't take the good and rejoice in taking the credit, but pull away from, resile from your personal liability for these things. So
Remember, David gave us a proper example of that.
yes,
Rispa.
that was
Remember Rispa when Saul in his thing had done harm to the
Destroyed the
Gibeonites,
sons, yeah.
the Gibeonites. And then David said, what is happening? Remember I had the famine? And the prophet came to him and said, listen, because that what Saul did.
that
he kept
atrocity
the
that
faith."
remains.
And David said,
Yeah.
and so he said to the people, what can we do? And they says, well, same like we had. Were destroyed, you have to give us back life for life. And so that is how Rispa came into
That's
being.
how
I
she
think
lost her
sons.
sons.
And she said, no, man, they can't just stay so we have to give them a proper burial. Oh, look at that. They
Yeah.
said David understood that he was standing in the place of the office of king. So even though it wasn't he who did it, because Saul had done it, he needed
He
to
had to do the repentance
he had to do
and
the remedy. He
let's
had
say
to
pay
remedy.
penance.
Yeah, he had to pay penance.
Yes. And, we had started yesterday looking at David as king himself making the mistake of, in his pride, counting his fighting troops
Yes, remember that.
and the slaughter
The
that
vow.
the angel of death carried out, 70,000 men dead. And David now anxious for his people, wanting to know, what can I as the king? He said, it was my mistake. I did it.
What must I do?
What can I do to relieve my nation of this punishment? And he was told what he needed to do. We've called on our own prime minister to look at things happening in Jamaica and in a very symbolic, spiritually symbolic way, take responsibility and say, what can I do to relieve my nation of the punishment? And we have many stories that are incomplete, The reparation story is incomplete because we are learning and recognizing that even if they refuse to pay, we are under a duty and obligation to
Fix it.
make the call.
Fix it.
We have to make the call. So we're making the call and I'm sharing with you this morning what Professor Orlando Patterson brought home. Women should be especially conscious and mindful of the trauma that our predecessors, our ancestors suffered. We should be particularly mindful of it. And how are we mindful of it? Not by getting bitter and angry and trying to castrate every white male or half white male that we see. We should be especially caring and nurturing of our girls or women. And we should be holding our own men accountable and demanding the same respect and care, making sure that our daughters are received in safe and nurturing environment in our home. Because there was a time when a young girl who set foot on the shores of Jamaica was immediately preyed upon. If you could be contracting a venereal disease within 3 months of your arrival in a country, can you imagine what you were exposed to, how you were being treated?
But
And yet, I'm bringing it forward, Percival, because as I was reading it and just reflecting on it, I saw that although the face of the oppressor has changed, the same trauma is being visited on the society, perhaps not as harshly or as frequently, but it's the same thing. Our population has been in the region of 3 million for the longest time, wouldn't you say? I don't know what the census is going to show when it's finished, but Jamaica has been hovering near 3 million. And in the meantime, what's happening? Innovations in science has extended the mortality of man. Even with care, we're still having babies, though we had gone through the 2 is better than too many phase. We're still having babies, and most families experience multiple births. My mom had 7 kids.
my mom had 7 kids.
Yours had 7. You yourself have been a little low on the production side, but you have 3.
Only have 1.
You had better whisper that. But my husband and I together have 4.
Okay. But you see that you raise it, but
The point I'm making is we don't have 2.
yeah, but the truth
So
is,
the 2 is better than too many narrative that was running in your childhood and mine. Many persons are building families with multiple births. So what is happening? We're losing people to crime and mayhem. Well, we lost 13 babies with the dirty hospital debacle.
and the human trafficking.
Or people are being trafficked because of hardship. There's a thing where my father used to care. What's it again? Hardness of life?
That's what your father used to call it.
There's a thing called hardness of life. Or some,
Or the Gideon?
well, that is The Gideon is another
expression.
yes, well, all right.
In the Gideon.
We're losing people in the Gideon through hardness of life. Just when you look at how we are losing citizens,
But you see, the way that we're losing citizens,
yes,
when you reflect on what
we're losing
happened,
some to police brutality.
but that's a part of it too. Because the brutality is being expressed in different means and fashions. So that we
Yes,
are killing ourselves. We have um, men on gang violence, we're killing each other. Police doing it, using each other to what you spoke about, the whole thing with sexual predatory sexual practices of males and the young women. It's a whole heap of thing and it look like it. It's, nobody
like
reflect
we're
on
barely
it.
gonna keep any people.
Yeah,
All
because
right,
when
you have to do the math for me now to see what we did between 1838 and now. How many years is that?
1838 to
And
present.
20, yes. Because we started in 1838, we had 359,000. Now we're at 3 million.
You want to say, well, why we just comparing?
In how, yes.
So we are in 2023.
Someone needs to do the projections, the model, the population growth model to see.
So it's
That's
193
almost
years.
200 years.
193 years, and between 1650 to 1830 it was 180 years.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for almost twice the length of
yeah,
time.
it's same. So we are at 3 million, you say?
Yes.
Clear that.
I feel like we've done pretty much the same to ourselves.
Right.
Because look at that. During the same period, the Americans had a stock of 388 and grew it to 2+ million.
Right.
If you use their rate of growth,
500%
you
increase.
could use their rate of growth to see what should our population be starting with a stock of 359,000. If it grows in 108 years, the Americans grew theirs by 500%. In 193, we should have grown ours to, but we're going to calculate it and tell you what we have done just using some basic mathematical approach. We'll be right back.
with the econometrics.
Okay, welcome back. We were speaking about the impact of what Professor Orlando Patterson has called Holocaust of slavery on population growth in Jamaica. He went into some detail on what the slavery experience was for Jamaicans. For the women, he spoke of the venereal diseases, the stunted fertility, reproductive function that the women fell prey to by reason of mass raping of the women by the planter class. Spoke of how undernourished and how brutal the work ethic was for the men. Well, I both guess both men and women. And the result of it is that Jamaica had a stock. Jamaica imported over 1 million slaves, and 8 years shy of emancipation, we only had 359,000 when you include the free colored people, while America got 388,000 slaves and grew the stock of African descendants to over 2 million in 1830. During the break, Percy and I were playing with some numbers because while I was sitting thinking of the horrors of it, I realized that since emancipation, we have not fared much better than when we were under the rigors, the whip of slavery. Now we could see what accounted for the decline under slavery. We now have to take responsibility for what happened whilst we were emancipated, and then for the last 70 years, 60 years, and then for the last 60 years, we're under what we are still calling independence. Fact of the matter is, wheresoever the numbers take us, we have a lot of accounting to do for our treatment of self. When you add up the loss to police brutality, crime and violence, human trafficking in its various forms, poor health care, what else? Just when you look at how we have mistreated our own selves, we have stunted our own growth.
Lack of justice and system that would foster
Growth and prosperity.
For everybody and well-being.
Yeah, we've not treated ourselves much better than the slave masters treated us, is the point that I'm observing now. I mean, I think starting to recognize the horrors of slavery and maybe drawing the right linkages between how we dishonor, disrespect, and abuse women today with the history of abuse and disrespect which our ancestors suffered, and using the same principle that we used to call on the leaders of our country to take responsibility for the misdeeds of others and fix them during their season. In the general population, we also have to do the same if we are going to get the healing that we deserve and we're looking for. Right now, in the study of victimology, many understand and teach that the victim of abuse becomes an abuser.
The abused become the abuser.
Yes.
Especially for men.
Yeah. So what we're seeing, what we're seeing is just a continuation of the same pathology. Our ancestors were abused, we are the product of abuse, and we come into our own society continuing the same abuse of self.
It's the same trend, you call it the generational curse.
Yes.
That needs to be broken and destroyed.
It needs. Thank you, my brother. You've stepped into the present day with me now, because all these things we're talking about really so we can understand and fix our minds on breaking those patterns. I thank and I applaud Mr. Patterson for stepping into that miry clay. That's not a pleasant place. A lot of people don't even want to be reminded of slavery. They say, oh, that was then, and we are modern. But I pray that everybody begins to understand when others before us, Marcus Garvey included, Bob Marley prophetically adopting the same words in music. When others say that if you don't know where you're coming from,
You know your future. You have to
you
understand the
can't get to
past.
that future. You
And,
have to understand your past.
and
Some say that the people without roots have no future. However you look at it, there is a necessity to excavate the past, understand it, and choose the kinds of interventions that are required to pick up the good things from the past and project them into a profitable future, or break the harmful narratives, the harmful trends.
but I tell
This
you something.
morning, we're just looking at what Mr. Patterson was pointing out as one of the extreme, the hurtful incidents in our past that have brought us to this place. We were treated, our ancestors were treated the worst way, the most brutal forms of punishment and hard labor were imposed on the backs of our ancestors. That's where we're coming from. And it's why you look at what's going on in Jamaica, and sometimes your stomach turn at the brutality of what we are capable of, what we've done. That's where it's coming from.
And if we understand that, so you have to understand your past, that you know that in charting a new way forward, a new Jamaica as we call it, you break it, you break it. One of the things I do, especially with children, when you are doing dedication at church, people say, why you keep doing that? I said, there are a lot of generational things that you need to break in bloodlines. And in the Jamaican bloodline, there's this brutal history from the past that we just have to break. We have to understand that it is there in our psyche, um, in our DNA, and we break it. And there are some good things there now. So it is cutting off the generational curses that exist, moving from that, but also breaking it and stepping into the new there is. And even as you break things that are generational, there are some things you have to do in terms of what we call repentance.
Yes.
You understand that? So it becomes so very important for us when we understand it. And it is a very spiritual thing, because I keep reminding people we are spirit, our soul, our body. And a lot of things that we see manifested in the physical realm, in this soul, it comes out of the spirit. Because things happen first in the spirit, and then you see the manifestation in the physical realm. And if we understand that, because I think, and that a lot of things that were done to us were to break our spirits. Were to break our spirits. Were to break and
Did
to
they
destroy.
succeed?
I think not.
I think
think
not
that
too.
I think that what has emerged is that we are now getting an understanding as people of color, people, black people, of where we are. And that in God's own economy, He don't see us any less than any other race. Other races have tried to do that. And you see it being perpetuated by other races and the black race. And we say, no, no. And for the human race to move forward, we who were at the beginning have to take our rightful place. You hear me saying this all the time? It's like you're carrying something. And if everybody who's carrying whatever it is, if one side of it is lean, then you're not getting the full measure of what you need to say happening. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and until you gain that equilibrium.
Yeah, we're going to continue to be the way we are, even in terms of what we see happening in the world. Africa, call it
Your
what?
time is now.
Time
Africa's
is
time is now.
No, it's
Africa's
right
time is
now.
always now.
Yeah. And I think everybody said that, the Chinese eat. The Chinese
I
want to
believe
eat.
the Africans see too.
Let's eat our time.
All
It's
right,
our time.
Conrad has challenged us to get our facts straight. Come on, Conrad, give us the facts that we're missing out.
Yeah,
you can put it on the chat. I'll share it. We try to give thumbnail sketches and to express our viewpoints as concisely as we can. We're never gonna cover everything, but if there's something vital that you feel should be included, Get to typing, man. We'll share it. Let's move into today's news coverage.
Leave for equity promote.
Yes, from the women, sir.
Woman, eh?
Yes.
Oh, I would never
Caribbean
saw that
Research.
yesterday, you know. I needed to comment on it.
Yeah,
Yesterday
we're
was,
going to get to that.
yeah,
Caribbean Research Institute has published its
it's a
report
balance, you know.
showing that for every dollar earned by a Jamaican man, the women earn for the same work 61 cents.
Did that happen to you as a lawyer?
I don't know. Think about it, I wouldn't really know because
It should have been based.
matters of salary are notoriously private and confidential, and perhaps rightfully so.
But when you were charging your fees, there's a point at which you would charge your fees. Now you set your fees?
No, I worked in a firm, and you work in a market-driven environment, so you set an hourly rate.
Okay.
What happened to me frequently, I can recall one particular matter that I did, and if I say a little bit about it, you might even recognize it. A local bank was up for sale. Well, it was the shares in the bank were being acquired, and there was an individual who said he had a beneficial ownership in the shares, and he was able to show that a company had been incorporated offshore, documenting the relationship, and the shares were being sold without reference to his beneficial stake.
Okay.
And it was all practically at a stalemate between him and the person that he was challenging. But the transaction was going on, and his dispute was not getting any attention. And I went offshore, got an injunction, froze the transaction, and gave him bargaining position. When I did my invoice, I won't call the actual numbers. When I did my invoice, the man, and he's a man,
And they said, oh, come.
the man want to know what I would do with so much money.
Oh, Jesus. You out of order.
And gave me, and made a first payment of
20%.
1/7 of it. Less than 20%, way less
And
than.
they never given a rest?
Did not pay the rest. Invited me to a meeting to have a conversation with other counsel, a man. And at that meeting, I learned that the other counsel, the man, was replacing me in the matter. I had taken it to the point where he was at the table, settlement discussions were underway, and when I raised my invoice, the man asked me what I would do with so much money. And it wasn't a lot of money, just so you understand. The shares were being sold for billions of dollars by Jamaican. I mean, I think it was like way in excess of 30 or so million US dollars. That for the shares. And the funds, because of the work I did, the thing was frozen. The money was just couldn't be paid out until a resolution was struck. Because with the injunction that I got, I notified the attorney for the vendor of the shares that there was a trust claim against the monies. And once attorneys are notified of a trust, if they move adversely without a court order, they themselves become liable. So I notified the attorney and
So
the
you have
bank.
experience what you're talking about.
Oh, I have, in the worst way. And it happened to me more than once, where I give service superior to what they were getting elsewhere with big firms, with men, with whatever. And when it came time to pay, there was some consternation. What the second person who did it to me couldn't avoid paying me in full. They just paid me over what was about 4 years. They delayed making any payment for about 3 years, and then they paid me over like a 4-year period. I got little checks.
You couldn't sue them.
I could have. I chose not to.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what they're talking about, but it doesn't even come from. In my case, it came from just men thinking that what's a woman doing with can't be. Not looking at the value received. And this is the same problem here, that you would receive the same value from the labor, the hard work of women, but you want to pay them less.
So, but you know what? But I am looking at it and I'm saying, well, them in some serious problem because the DNS is a woman. You notice when you look through the marketplace,
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if those
but
ladies were at the top of their game. If a man was there, if he would get more than her. That is the question. You think so?
yes, if a man was in the same job, in fact, many times the woman have the job because they know they can pay less and get better quality work or the same.
Wow.
Many times.
I know, sir.
And you hear some men say, I like working with women. And they think it's a compliment. But half of the reason why they're saying that is because they think that they will have an easier time with a woman who they think will take instruction and toe the line. And they can pay less. Who wouldn't like working with women?
Yeah.
We're easy to look at.
So woman.
We behave nicer and smell better. Gotta put that into.
No, but the
And they think it's a compliment to say, oh, I like working with women. It's because you think you're going to get away with something.
I mean, I think so.
No,
Yeah.
some genuinely. But you have a better experience all around
Yeah, but
working with women.
But no, what? But I've had the reverse. I remember I was working at a place, and then I got a woman boss. Oh, jeez, I got the willies, man. And she came in after I'd done all of the work, and I'm explaining to her, if you do that, that's what. I said, no. I know what I'm doing. So it was not a pretty experience for me.
So what you mean she was, tell me what you mean. She bullied you or
Yeah, man, bullied.
what you did?
That it?
You quit?
Yeah, man. So you can.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say to you that some of the women, when they rise to the position occupied by the men, they are terrors.
Yes, man.
Because they feel that they fought against every kind of odds to get here. And they feel that behaving like a man is the secret to success. That's why, you don't want to be in no, you don't want to be under the female rule. Because sometimes it has some perversions that.
Yeah, because I tell you, there's some things that share it, but I can't share it from here
Yes.
because
And they hear what Earl Brown asked me. Earl says, were those men Jamaican whites or from another ethnic group? Do you know? One was solid black man, the one who paid me over, the one who didn't fight me on the fees, but starved me out.
Yes.
So that like the money was enough, I could have bought an apartment, a house with it. But when you're getting it in
peace,
you can barely pay a light bill. And the second was a Jamaican brown man. Yes. And I'm sure there've been other. I mean, I remember being told I need to wait my turn so that someone of a higher brown color could take the stage.
Become partner.
Yes.
And it wasn't as good as you were. But and I guess, and unfortunately.
Well, for that one, I did what you did too. I quit. I don't take those things lightly.
Unfortunately, it is a reality here in our thing. But I thought the disparity had become smaller, but $1 versus 61 cents.
That's terrible, man.
No, man, that's 39 cents.
39%.
But the truth is, they have the same. It's not like if you're buying a car because the woman get a discount. You understand?
That's why they said.
And they're paying a rent.
Yeah.
So that don't
so
make
the report says women are poorer than men in Jamaica, with the purchasing power parity for female per capita income at US $6,729 compared to US $11,044 for male. So we do the same job.
Well, Jesus, let me just go biblical now.
Yes, because he broke that mold.
He mash up that lie.
While you're hunting it, the report said women are more likely to be in vulnerable forms of employment and less likely to be in leadership positions, situations that both present an economic disadvantage to women. The gender wage gap in Jamaica is a barrier to women's empowerment. It is one of several, but its impact is far-reaching and negative on multiple fronts. The report said the disparity had broader consequences, especially in single female-headed homes with children suffering from reduced access to resources. I think when they're hiring women, they must assume that some man is going to be contributing to her upkeep. So she don't need all that money. But let me tell you, that man asked me, what would I do with so much money? What you do with so much money? Precisely is what he said.
You hear what Jesus said?
Like, Minette, I got your invoice. What you do with so much money?
He really asked you that.
He asked me. If he's listening now, he knows himself.
There's neither Jew nor Greek.
Gentile.
There's neither bond nor free. There's neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you be Christ, then ye are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So what that mean? That in God's eyes.
Well, we said it earlier now. Humanity are one. Him look down. That's what
So
he
he looks
sees.
down and he sees it and he says, but you minute are Abraham's seed too.
Absolutely.
You walk in faith, you're Abraham's seed. And look at this now. This is in Galatians 3 verses 8 to 9.
Percy, are you watching the skies? Anyone watching the skies?
What is happening?
It's an Elijah moment. Looks like rain.
Yeah, but
All right, please stay the rain.
yeah,
Hand of God.
Yes, we speak to it even now in the name of Jesus. Calm yourself down. Not your time yet.
And okay, to show you that we believe in equality, say your piece now. Yesterday you were admiring the cohort of spelling bee.
Champions for parish.
Well, yes, the parish champions. And you saw
yes,
that the men were in the majority.
there were 8 young men.
8 of 14.
Yeah,
eight of them were men.
Yeah,
So they were in the majority.
yeah.
So naturally the champion is what?
It's not naturally champion.
If you're in the majority, there's a greater chance that you'll be the champion.
Probability of it being
Yes.
a male, yeah, but it came. So come back, kid. Congratulations to the young man from Manchester High School.
His name is Tavion Morgan.
Yes.
Tavion Morgan, who had competed, I think, 5 years before, came 6th. So you know he must have, because he's a kid in this picture. So you know he was quite young when he competed, and he wept when he lost. He placed 6th, and his mother resolved. You know, there's a woman part of the story. His mother resolved that she would get him under the wings of the winning coach from the year when he lost. The coach is Errol Campbell, another male role model there. And Coach Errol Campbell brought Tavion to the big trophy. The trophy looked almost the same size as Tavion.
Where did he go to school?
Manchester.
No, I mean high school is at Manchester, because look at it. Then a young man, or then high school was 2nd. Then another boy was 3rd. Then wow. The young lady came, Eve Victoria Williams. She was 5th.
Hold on a minute. Is that Vicky?
Eve Victoria Williams.
And you know what? Listen to this now, Percy. Can me see something else right here, you know, as we're talking about it. Which school did young Tavion attend? Them gone through one whole heap of something, and I don't see the name of his school yet. You know, it's not one of the schools that.
Carteret.
That's
The Carteret.
Where is it? Is it
Carteret College.
sufficiently?
The Carteret College. It said it earlier.
Yeah.
So it has the Carteret. Congratulations to the Carteret. You know that I have special alignment
country
to
school.
Manchester.
Yeah.
As my heart came from Manchester.
I'm looking at the word, the winning word, hebdomada. Hebdomadal. Hebdomadal. Oh, that's a nice, easy word compared to Pyrrhonism. You know, when you're listening to the words, your heart jump when you hear a word that, as you sound it out, it spells itself.
But that one, what the
Like
word?
onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia, yes.
Yeah,
So
here it's
congratulations to
yes,
Mr.
to-
Morgan.
Mr. Morgan,
I hope it's not
David Morgan.
that
12
40 says
years
good morning
old.
to every.
Oh, we're getting a good morning?
No, 40 says good morning.
Oh, Earl is bringing us something. Here he says, look how much money that artist got for those naked statues. There were some naked statues?
One in Emancipation Park.
Oh, oh, I think. No,
It's 8 o'clock.
no,
What a revelation.
no. I couldn't tell what he was talking about. I remember we were talking about money and payment and men versus women.
Yeah.
So that's what I was
It's
like.
it's a female who did it? It's a female.
No, he said, look how many. Oh, it was our lady who did it? Ooh. All right, we got to think it over while we're on break. We'll get that straight.
Best 100 FM is the authentic voice of Jamaica, promoting your prosperity with better vibes and better music. Let us promote your goods and services for you. Advertise with us. For more information, call our office at 876-276-8935. That's 276-8935.
This is your beloved Pastor Percy from the Morning Connection. Support our commitment to Jamaica by joining us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 when we pray for the nation. Show us you care. Advertise with us. For more information, call our offices at 876-276-8935. Well,
Good morning and welcome back.
yeah, but
No, Earl, I thank you for what you're sharing with me online here. So I didn't get the point fully, but I have it now.
because we
Earl,
did
he
some
was looking
research.
at, yes, and making the note that the wage gap, how much money that artist got for the naked statues,
$4.5 million.
$4.5 million. And the artist is Laura Facey Cooper, who is, if Jamaica have royalty, I guess she'd be there, of Facey Commodities and, yeah.
Maurice Facey daughter.
Daughter of Maurice Facey, write her own ticket. But mind you, when it comes to what an artist will command for their work, that's kind of a whole different kettle of fish too,
You know
wouldn't you
that you're
say?
an artist in your own right.
Yes, I am creative and what I do.
No, you're very creative in your writing. I've seen it, and I'm going, okay. I
Oh,
wish I could write like that.
who is making mischief over there? Oh, did you say that NCB was on fire? What was that? There's. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't even read it. Can I read it?
The public advisor.
Yes, but It's hilarious. Can't share it. You gotta go on. Where is it on Twitter?
So when you want to call the police, it's 911 we call here, or we call 119?
What
In the
one one
States,
nine?
in the
Yeah.
States, it's 911.
Yeah. Do you know that there is, in the world of telecoms, there is an international protocol or convention that governs how you set up your emergency numbers so that persons who travel from different countries don't have to try and learn a whole new thing.
Okay.
So like if you can reverse it, there's is 911 or is it 119? There's a, it's meant to be, yeah, it's meant to be where anywhere in the country you have an emergency. You don't have to try and figure out, oh, how do I get the fire brigade in this country? It's supposed to be the same. Yeah, that's just a little sidebar. All right. We saw in the news, and this point that I'm making, Percy, is connected to the discussion we were having about how we Jamaicans are impacting the growth of our population, the preservation of our own people. We looked at what Professor Orlando Patterson was saying is the history as it relates to slavery, and I am taking the conversation into what we ourselves are doing
To each other.
to each other. Because you and I ran a very inexpert modeling. I'm embarrassed by how inexpert it was. But we were just looking, if Jamaica's population followed the same growth trajectory of, say, the United States. United States had 2 million black people in 1830. You know what we didn't do? What's the population of black people in America? We did the entire population of America, and they're not all black.
You can't that's what you said.
Yeah. If
that's-
they had 2 million black people in 1830, how many do they have today? What's the rate of growth? We know that overall their population grew to 300 million. That's about where they are now. But what percentage of it is black? How have they managed the growth in their black population? And that's
13.6%.
all right. So 13.6% of 300.
This is 30 million. It's more than that.
Okay,
10
so that's what we're working out. What is the rate of growth that the Americans experience, bearing in mind that their climate is worse because they have winters that are rough, and they started with a planter class that was this. The Patterson's report said that the Jamaican planter class was 36 times wealthier than the American slave owner planter class. 36 times.
They were much richer. That's why
Jamaicans were much richer.
Yeah,
So
because
the
we were
poor
the jewel
people-
of the Antilles and the jewel in the monarchy.
Well, the jewel behaved very badly. So if those poor, they're 36 times poorer than they. You must understand how bad things were here and what our ancestors would have seen, the plenty that they would have seen on display in the homes and the circumstances of the owners compared to the meager
Yeah,
supplies
because remember
and
they were-
rations which they got as slaves. Doesn't that sound familiar? When I hear, like when we talk about cost of living in Jamaica and so on, and there are people making a choice between buying crackers and getting supplies for their kids, their children to be in school, essential things that they need, and they have to be making a choice between cheap food, not even the most nutritious of anything. And when you pass by some restaurants
I see what people
and
eating
see what people
and
throw
spend-
away,
and spend it.
what's
but
left on the plate.
Let's draw that into recent time. Do you know
yes,
that when the pandemic hit and schools had to close down,
yeah,
that people had to be making a choice between data,
food and data,
and data, and
oh,
most
yeah.
times it
Data ran out.
food, they had to feed the children. So
Yeah.
as a parent involved in the system and thing, I'm going, oh boy.
Not choices you want to
No,
make.
you don't make those choices. And then subsequent to that, having done a research in terms of how the many research in terms of how the examination results were impacted by um,
The lack of access
the
to
lack of
data.
access. It was a
Yeah.
major factor.
Yeah, yeah,
Major factor, and it
yeah.
and it really affected when you listen to the students how they responded. They saying, "Oh
I
my
tell you,
Lord."
there's a restaurant that I frequent. Um, I'm not a big wine drinker, but I've been privy to a bottle of wine for lunch costing $16,000. Some helpers are still getting 10 and 15 for the week.
Okay. So the air buckle
And I see people spend at lunch more than some of us earn for our labor for the week.
and
So that disparity between those who have and those who don't, the way that it
just gotten
was
wider.
in 1830 or
Gotten wider.
thereabouts.
It's gotten wider. It's gotten wider.
Yeah.
It's gotten wider.
And we don't know white people to blame for that in the way, or let's put it this way, we don't have slave owners to blame for that. So I'm looking at some things in anyway.
wider perspective.
So we were talking about the ways in which we now are hurting ourselves. And I see here that you showed it to me. A young man, how old is he? The most wanted man in Clarendon.
He from Bulby actually, but he was killed in Clarendon.
Yeah.
Lester Morrison, his name. Lester, bigger crime Morrison.
23 years old? How old is he? Because that's the really young man you were showing me.
Yeah.
All right. This is how the police or the JDF announced the death of one of our young men. I may start with him as one of our young men. I don't want anybody to tell me that I'm a criminal and I must call him that. The JDF put on their website, I guess, when I want to find the words because I don't want to misrepresent them.
It was on loop last night. It came on loop. I can't tell you what was loop. He's been wanted.
Oh yeah, they write long. Was it like long run, short catch? They went in there to kill him. In what appeared to be a celebratory post on Twitter, the Jamaica Defense Force said, "Long run, short catch," as it reported the fatal shooting of Morrison, a top lieutenant of the Tankwell Hill gang. We don't get to interview, interrogate, gather any information from these people, you know.
Still give them the gun.
Because
they become an embarrassment.
Because the mission is always to kill them.
And
we don't get to learn nothing from these super criminals who are usually very talkative when caught.
Let me share something. You know, unfortunately, our system, and I have to say the system, spawns these persons. The system supports these persons as enforcers. And when they are no longer of any use, they become disposable.
Listen to the words of Fitz Bailey, who is also, I believe, is a deacon in a church or something. But I know that he is not a stranger to church business. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey said that this man rained terror on the citizens within the 11 miles Bull Bay area and its environs, killing and maiming several people. I think it's a victory for the people of those communities, and it is a relief that he can no longer perpetuate those acts of violence against them, Bailey said. The Independent Commission of Investigations is probing the incident. Let me tell you what is wrong with that, and I'm not going to shy away from speaking it as plainly as I can. It is not a victory to any citizen that another citizen is killed by the police rather than taken into custody and made to pay for his crimes in the way that our Constitution dictates. It cannot be called a victory. A victory is when the law of the land is allowed to do its job. Why do we need prisons and courts and a justice system if we can claim our victory by just killing them? Why do we need it? Why do we need anything more than the police, well armed, going out to kill those who offend? You cannot be a victory. And I think for Commissioner of Police, Deputy Commissioner Fitzbailey, to say such a thing, to give citizens the encouragement and the belief that the law is satisfied, that the morality of the community is satisfied by the spilling of blood, is wrong. It is unlawful. It is immoral in the eyes of both man and God. If the police can give us victory, we don't need no prison, we don't need no judge, we don't need no lawyer, we don't need no constitutional guarantees of liberty or life. It cannot be a victory. I mean, I'm constantly disturbed by these utterances, which, now, if this is the victory, why don't I, citizen A and B, go pursue whoever caused an offense and do it the Old Testament way, be an avenger of blood and take our own victory? Why do I need to leave it to the police?
See that to know, so it becomes jungle justice.
But obviously,
why
do we have any kind of justice system if this is the victory?
It's not a victory.
Cannot be a victory.
And they just need to understand that. Because, you know, when you know, those of us who understand history, you remember when, I can't remember his name. He was an enforcer for one of the parties.
No, Jim Brown.
Not Jim Brown.
Before Jim Brown?
Before Jim Brown. Shot the mash up. Mash up. And those guys.
Yes.
The system spawned them and they know. And when the system, meaning the political establishment, spawn those people, call them to be enforcers.
Two of our brothers online making the point. If them live, you know big wigs in prison. I feel that way. I feel that way.
See that?
And then Earl
Grandpa
said, dead man tell no tales. Dog paw, Speaker of the House, grandchild father.
Yeah.
One of Jamaica's most wanted, killed after he was free from jail. He had information on politicians, so he had to go. It opens the door to those kinds of statements and speculation.
Yeah.
We cannot just keep killing. We can't just keep killing them because the police said they're. And we have a way of describing them: notorious criminals, fugitive. I mean, we have a way of kind of dehumanizing them before we treat them like
chattel.
Disposable
Chattel. It's chattel.
So you see, we're talking about, it's
There's no
big in my
redemption.
spirit this morning, talking about how the population was decimated through the brutality of slavery. And here we come today, the same thing. And we are doing it.
And I was sharing with last night with persons close to me. You see this narrative of fear that people use to control people, and you can't take independent of it. It continuing on, you know. Because the narrative of fear is the narrative of control. And if we can't control it, then we dispose of you.
Yep. Yeah,
and if we spawn you, and we can't control you, we just...
Yeah, you become expendable.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was tickled by the words of the mayor, who says, I am very sorry to hear that such a notorious gentleman could have been taking refuge in a community like that.
Mr. Mirage.
Yes, Mr. Mirage says, such a notorious gentleman. Mr. Mirage is on a path. We won't know what he is because we killed him.
Yeah. You think him get a revelation in the moment?
Oh, Mr. Mirage? No.
Gentleman.
Such a notorious gentleman. Hey, but we can't speak like that and be like that to our own. So, Mr. Bailey, it's not a victory for the people of those communities. A victory would have been seeing the man stand trial, face him as the one who did these things, seeing the rule of law have its day in court, let him be an example, and then if it is
So the long all
within his will, this is the individual, see him come to repentance. Hear him say, I pursued certain lifestyle and I'm done with it. That's the victory.
and that's a real victory, you know, because you have people out there who have been caught, who have paid the thing and have turned their lives around.
And become a blessing to
other
others.
people.
And their testimony is a source for conversion
inspiration.
and inspiration.
To young
for
men who
others.
said, don't go down this
Yeah.
path. I remember there were these coming out of Cornerstone ministry and what used to happen. Because I told you I used to do work in the ministries do ministry in the prisons. I was at GP and I was at St. Catherine. How much time did I serve? I served there for 2 years, you know. Yeah. Yeah, hard labor. But it in terms of seeing people just turn them life around and come out and living on a different path, that is a real victory. That's a real victory.
Now, when we talk about the loss of life and the social impact of slavery and, you know, the aftermath of it and colonialism and so on, and what we miss, I think, frequently is that trauma inhibits us in a very material way as it relates to how we trade, how we prosper, how we build our communities and our societies. Former Prime Minister Patterson, P.J. Patterson, is at the forefront of a certain discussion that we're going to just share with you when we return from the 8:30 break.
Welcome back to our morning connection, free flow Thursdays. But we have been flowing freely, but we've been focusing on some issues that have long-term impact in terms of how we are as a people. I want to focus in on the former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson's call on the Caribbean, Africa to increase stake in global trade, which means that there's so much trade that we can have with each other, but somebody else said time come to do a lot of things. Yeah.
Wow. Before, that was the focus that we agreed we would shift to. But let me tell you, look at what is being said here online. One listener is saying, where's the opposition? Not the PNP. Someone who can call on these wanted men to turn themselves in and be protected before they go to the police, because sometimes they don't have money for lawyers. And he continues by saying that in Canada, when a man becomes most wanted, he is hunted and brought in alive and interviewed, and we get more information to build more cases to fight crime and violence. No, that is the standard. That is the standard. In Jamaica, they go out and kill them, and then they celebrate online. And another listener says the tactic of maligning the victim or victims have always been the strategy of the slave master class to divert attention from their own misdeeds. And that is, in fact, what I think happens a lot here in Jamaica. That's why we're calling it out this morning. We are all been victims of abuse in one form or another. And it is very typical that the abuser is himself a victim or was a victim. That is why the pathology moves in that direction. And we're seeing it at play here, and we need to speak against it. It is no victory when a most wanted man comes in a body bag. Everything he knows, dead with him. Any assistance he could give. For example, Dudus would have been killed in Jamaica.
If he never do it.
The Americans have him, and I'm sure that he has given them a treasure trove of information, some of which will probably come full circle in the SSL.
It's got
investigation, that we know.
No, but it's interesting that you say that, because some of the time they interact with people, and it happens, not chance meeting, but I believe that God set it up and meet some people. And then when they begin to speak to you, go in your mouth and drop it, you're going, really? As they give you an insight into a lot of things that you, on the surface, it would be innocent. But when you go behind it.
When you peel back the layers, man.
Oh, man.
Not pretty.
Not pretty at all.
Before, I was saying to you that you can tell that this abuse of self and, interruption in the growth of our own people, our own nation, that you see it now creating havoc in how we build our economies and the wealth that can come even to people that, like us, those of African descent. And we were going to touch on what former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson is doing. He has made a call on the Caribbean and Africa to increase our stake in global trade. But a little bit of the context is what I want to share. We're not going to have time to do it justice, I'm sure of it. But Prime Minister Patterson, in making the call, said, the two regions must seek to achieve economic growth and sustainable development within a rules-based multilateral trading system that the World Trade Organization exists to enforce. So there is already a structure that we can fall into. He noted that while Africa and the Caribbean constitute 1/3, 33% of the WTO membership, we account for less than 4% of global trade.
Can you imagine that?
And look at it, our populations, the landmass that we occupy. Significant. Yet, we are huge consumers of everything that other people are producing. And that is the main position that we occupy. Consuming, spending our money. And in many instances, as Africa has seen, their wealth is taken to the other countries to fuel their production and their economy to make things for us to buy and consume. The thing is upside down. We got to shift it. Straight Up says, good morning, Minette. What is the problem, do you think, they could be having with the U.S. in terms of arrests in the Bosco Bell drugs bust? Another Dudus-like saga?
It could be.
But I don't think it would. No, we have learned from Dudus. I think people have improved in their level of sophistication in addressing these things. I think they're having a fight over jurisdiction. I think there are some names on the list and some leads in some directions that the U.S. want to pursue and Jamaica want to keep. Jamaica wanting to keep it is not a comforting idea, I think, for any of us. Because typically, when you hear that the DPP and all these agencies are in a debate about how to proceed, you know right away that somebody wants their fair share of something. So I think it's a jurisdiction. I think it's a fight over jurisdiction.
A fair share of something or a fair share of something that it don't reveal?
No, well, fair share of something. Because it can be, if you control, so let's say...
information.
Let's say that they have 10 persons who could be arrested. Mm-hmm. There may be 5 or 6 of them that America says, I want those. Mm-hmm. Jamaica is saying, no, the offense happened here. I want those. But Jamaica wanting to keep them may be causing disquiet with the Americans, who will no doubt think that their method of investigation and prosecution more sophisticated, more transparent, more likely to achieve good results than what will happen in Jamaica, where either the person going to get off or they're going to be killed in prison. And I don't think other investigative agencies have the same appetite for blood as we do. When you could have a senior man as Fitz Bailey calling the death of a citizen victory for those whom he abused. Victory for me is to see my oppressor answer for his crimes. That's victory for me. He must answer. Not be dead and leave me now to wonder if it was even really him or who else might have been involved. No. So I don't think the Americans would be very comfortable in Jamaica saying, we will do the arrest and keep. I think America wants the significant ones. And there might even be issues about who should be charged, who should be arrested.
Think they want the biggest ones?
If I were there, I would. Because some of the crimes, most of the financial crimes are in their currency. So I think that's what it is straight up. I think it is a fight over jurisdiction. Who should have what and who should move first and who gets the headlines if I know my DPP office well enough. There's going to be a headline grabbing thing and they're going to want to be at the forefront of it.
Do you think are we stop to pray at this point in time? Lord, let justice be done. We speak to every hindrance even now in the name of Jesus. Indeed, we destroy them and say, let true justice be done, let the truth come forth, and let the perpetrators.
So you have to give that. What did you drink? Let those responsible
perpetrators
be held
responsible, that indeed it will become a watershed moment in our history, that we move in this scarce moment to becoming better, a country of justice and righteousness and truth and mercy.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah. Amen. So shall it be. Taki is saying too that Patterson is right. Former Prime Minister Patterson is right. And he makes the observation that Africa and the Caribbean have the technology to do our own manufacturing, etc. We have the technology and we have the natural resources
to get it done.
Because
remember, Africa is the largest continent after Asia.
But a lot of the resources that they use to create what they come back and sell us, they take it from us.
Yeah, and go sell it. So even, it's like with bauxite.
Even
we
down
convert
to
bauxite to alumina.
Yeah.
Then it come back to us as aluminium. which is
And
a high
in pots and pans and foil to wrap our jerk chicken.
Yeah.
We use a lot of aluminium foil. And the time is right. I agree that the time is right. I think some other things are moving into the right alignment. And any one of us who want to be involved need to strike now. Oh, straight up, he's asking, no, he's pursuing the thing, Could it be that there are connected persons that the Jamaican authorities are trying to protect?
That's a strong possibility.
If there's that possible, I think we've gone past that. Can I tell you? I had a vision of, I could see some people continuing to do their day jobs now with a great deal of anxiety. They can't run away because it would be an admission. I see them continuing to appear in public places and, carry out their official functions, but knowing with the certain knowledge that disaster is at the door.
But them see it come.
They see it coming.
And they can't run.
And they can't run. I really believe that we're past the point where it can be hidden. I saw a certain resolve creep into the statements of the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. They are saying with some frequency, let the chips fall where they may. I think, there comes a time when, you can't run from it anymore. As we said early in the day, the chickens have come home to roost.
And we made that declaration even now when we saw it.
So
Is that what?
Facebook is alive with discussions on the subject matter. So we do need to, we need to incorporate Facebook. I need a third screen.
Oh, serious.
Because I think, let me tell you, you see like persons who, you're going to hear suicides, there are going to be disappearances maybe because, at the end of the day, a lot of people are really cowards. They carry out this activity, they are persistent in it, but they don't ever want to be faced.
And that's
yeah.
And that's what I say to people, Bob did say, and if night should turn today, a lot of people would run away. So the cap now is beginning to fit people. Because a lot of people have done stuff under the cover of darkness. They have been the hidden hand in a lot of things. They don't see them, but know what is happening. I mean, tell the people, when we are praying and we are making declarations, we know what we're doing,
Yeah.
Because we're speaking into the realm of the spirit and dismantling it. So now we are beginning to see the manifestation. That is why yesterday we were in war mode.
Warfare mode.
We war mode because we're saying, rise up now, people. Yeah. So I'm not surprised. I won't tell people what I've seen, but I've seen a lot of things. But waiting to see the manifestation.
Yes, and let's not, if we are disappointed in our expectations at all, we must pull out the truth because we know it's there.
Yeah.
And you must expect some misdirection. This morning, might have been in our Bible in a Year reading, we were going into, the Exodus is lining up now. It's lining up. And Moses has been given his instructions.
Right.
And even if you think it's a cautionary tale and it is just something like one of the fables, read it and see the structure of it. God did tell Moses, you're going to make these overtures to Pharaoh, but I am going to harden his heart. He's going to resist you.
Yeah.
You're coming out, but it won't be at the first assault. It won't be at the first say so. And you saw the affliction of the people mounted to a crescendo where God himself says, I have heard. I've heard it. It is time. Years before, he had told Abraham that 400 years, they'll be there for so many generations.
And people there would tell
And
people
there was
that,
a thing he was holding in the balance. He said, they can't come to their promised land until the sins of those occupying the land have reached its full measure. So just know that there is a balance being held in check, in tension. When the time is right for Jamaicans to step into their own, and when those who are holding them off have behaved to the level of atrocity that commands the attention of God. He's holding everything in check. Everybody have their opportunity to repent. When you have ignored your opportunity long enough and you have suffered over here long enough, it becomes what you have been insisting on in the last few days, the Kairos moment.
Yeah, man, it's gonna happen.
The perfect, opportune moment
And we have to
for
push
the
through,
shifting of things. And
you
we're
know,
there.
yeah.
We're there, but
Yeah.
it will not fall at the first assault. You must know that.
And you some of the times for me personally, I'm praying and I'm making utterances. I remember when this thing broke, I said people are going to resign, you know. I said it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Remember I said me I hold myself. You were saying I was praying and then Brother God said, hey, I begin to see resignations across the board in different areas.
Yes, they're going to have to resign. They start with resignation. But yes, straight up, we're going to charge them. Or that was Conrad. Conrad said, we're going to charge these criminals in high places. We have to, unless the police get there and kill them first.
You see, look, you see what I tell you? I say, you remember I came here and tell you.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. All right, we got to read it now. We have to share it. Straight up is observing. He says, wow, you know that some of the monies from the drugs trade could have been anticipated to be used to replenish certain defrauded funds? What a tangled web. It's all coming together. We saw that. It's almost the same value, 3.8 billion in drugs. And what is curious is the persistence of the attack.
Yeah.
3-point-something billion, it is seized. Then right after it come another 1-point-something billion. Right after that come another one. Then you see mass numbers of guns that are too large to be ignored. Nobody has time to send it in one. Things are happening, man. It's the sins of the Amorite approaching full measure. Full measure. We got to observe these things, remain vigilant and in prayer, and just keep pressing, because it's that push that's going to turn it over. Remember, we've always said, you work in partnership with the divine.
Yes.
So those who say you pray, and nothing,
Yeah.
your prayers
No, that-
have to be accompanied by the requisite level of effort in the natural world to bring things to a boil.
And then when we pray,
And we have to be working. I'm so glad that Prime Minister Patterson is keeping that dialogue and keeping certain things on the front burner, because for sure, our Minister of Trade and our Minister of Foreign Affairs is not. The most excitement she had over Africa was when she was trying to be the head of the Commonwealth Secretariat. Once that bid failed, you're not hearing much more about the various things that ought to be happening with CARICOM, with Africa, even specific issues that need to be addressed in Jamaica to prepare us for that relationship, which should be opening up to us right now. Why is Percy on the radio listening to Best FM?
yeah,
Your computer got away from you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are the things that we're trying to bring together. Prime Minister Patterson, former Prime Minister Patterson, observed that Africa's share of the global trade is well below 3%. Caribbean countries, half a percentile. We don't even, clearly we have very small populations. And so it is expected that, but you know what? We could be doing very well in services.
yeah.
So we're not looking to be dominant in manufacturing and the production of tangible goods, but we could be placing a much bigger number on the board in services, software development, even the same BPO services that,
Take it to another level.
yeah, intellectual property, the amount of value we offer to the world in the area of music, culture, the arts.
That's where it is, you know.
We could be trading at a much higher level, and we need to learn our strengths and building that in those areas. Let's see what he says. He says, we cannot and we will not be content to remain at the periphery of the global trading system. You know, I keep saying Prime Minister Patterson, he's too old to run again, but he's still saying and using the language of his prime ministerial office way better than what we see happening now. He says, we cannot and we will not be content to remain at the periphery of the global trading system, and we must resolve to enter a new frontier in all 6 regions of Africa. The former Prime Minister declared during the Africa Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum at UWI, Mona, on Wednesday. Africa and the Caribbean are confronting a new, what are we confronting? A combination of traditional, this is Facebook, Okay. All right. The producer is doing its job and giving me the opportunity to interact with what's happening
That's
on
what I was trying to
Facebook.
do.
Yeah. Oh, that's what
That's what
Percy
I
was trying to do.
Trying to bring it up. And I got to something that happened already. That's what happened.
Yes.
Hush. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are some areas. If you listening have an interest in pursuing trading relationships with Africa, certainly it seems like UA Mona is developing some center. Of course, the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Patterson, has a center of excellence
Right, I think
for Afro-Caribbean affairs, and there are some leads that you could probably tap into and open up those opportunities.
Remember the lady? Remember the lady that we spoke to on the
Yes,
program?
that and she is to return, so we can maybe use some of those linkages also. It's not enough, I think, for us to talk about it.
And
I
to do
think we
something
need to
about it.
lay some solid tracks in that direction. Let's see what is happening on Facebook. My good friend Maxine is online too. She owed me a visit on the show, actually. Hi, Sister Maxine. She said, cause versus continuing benefactor. Maxine, always mysterious, and I'm going to have to read more to get to dig into that one. Versus continuing benefactor. Well, I think at that point we were looking at the continuity of the abuse, because, you know, there's always somebody who profits from these activities. James Love says Andrew is a part of all what is going on. I love the way they spell that name. I have no idea who that person is. But he does say, "I'm sorry for Jamaicans. I could try Floyd Morris. He's blind. I think him can do a better job."
I know it.
I don't know that Floyd would appreciate that. All of them guys, them can't see to run this country. Oh, Facebook is a play. Facebook is ungoverned territory. I have to read it before I share what is being said. But needless to say, what I'm seeing here is showing me that Jamaicans all over have a concern about what is happening, and it's coming from the right place. Bill Miller, hi Bill Miller, says, is there a discussion to be had about individuals who seemingly have crossed the line as it relates to committing a crime versus choosing to disregard the laws altogether and become a killer or hitman? There is a discussion to be had about that.
We agree.
I mean, you know, we have separation of powers. Yesterday, it came up as we were talking through some issues, and we were looking at the disconnect between what the police and the Minister of Transport was saying concerning these new offenses and the experience of the citizens going to court and discovering that the court is not governed by the minister's statement.
It's governed by what is in the law.
Mm-hmm. So, and what we're seeing again too, you know, with Deputy Commissioner Fitz-Bailey's statement that it is a victory to kill a man, a victory to the victims to kill the man. We're seeing that denial of the separation of powers. It is not the job of the police to deliver any victory in a final sense. The police is on the way to adjudication of the issue in the place that the Constitution says is where justice is delivered, victory is acknowledged in our jurisdiction. It's time for our 9 o'clock break. Okay. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And thank you for sticking with us. And I'm loving the interest that is being taken and the conversation that is going on online. The Facebook feed is actually on Lowell Lawrence's, yeah, Lowell's Facebook page. You'll find us there. I'm reading one or two of the comments. Some of it I won't read out loud, but you can imagine that those who are observing what's happening in Jamaica at this time understand that there must be some very high placed individuals who are moving about looking normal but are very uncomfortable. And I just kind of saw it myself. And, you, you, you hear the stories of persons who they leave work, they go home, then they hear a gunshot, or and you look back at the last few days of such a person's life, and you hear all the reports that they were at lunch or at dinner, they were moving around, and there are going to be resignations, and there are going to be some uncomfortable things happening in this nation. I pray that it be so, because unless we can bring persons into confrontation with their own misdeeds, once we know of it and we fail to do the right thing, then we go down with them.
Which is why, as you were pointed out, the whole thing of the gentleman saying victory,
Wrong.
it's so out of line, because can you imagine if they held this person,
Yeah.
assuming they brought him in and began to interrogate him, the amount
Sensibly.
the amount more of guns that they would find, and the breaking of some of the linkages and the extortion that was happening. I tell you.
All right. So there's a comment from one listener that says them are fret about them visas. Some don't even have visas, and it's well known.
Yes,
It's well known. Some don't have visas. Some have visa with notation. And you're right, Taki. The SSL fiasco cannot be made to be silenced. No. Here's what they're actually looking at, because they've put some things out in the public domain simply because Jamaicans are pressing for information. Deputy Commissioner Fitzbailey, again, he did a press conference early in the afternoon, Tuesday? Would have been Tuesday. He says a number of domestic and international law enforcement agencies are participating in the investigation, including our own Financial Investigations Division, the FID, the Fraud Squad, the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, those are local agencies, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So although they said they were inviting other countries, including maybe the International Police, Interpol, they only have the FBI. And I'd said it some time ago, I remain convinced that Britain and America drew straws to determine who would deal with what's going on in Jamaica. And Britain has yielded to America for obvious reasons. One, Britain coming here is going to look very colonial. And they're already sensitive to the move to expel the king and to be a republic. And if they are listening to us, which they should be, they would know that to come into Jamaica, having gone into BVI, Turks and Caicos, I think Anguilla, they can't move in on another black nation. That now is looking like the plan is too obvious. Because I believe there's a move to recolonize. Another name, it's going to be called another name. But if you've watched what happened in the pandemic, and if you saw how ravaged the societies of Europe, the Americas that have harsh winters, when you saw what happened there and you look at Africa and the Caribbean, you're going to want the Caribbean. You're going to want to deepen your ties, pull them back under your fold, but not with any responsibility for the well-being of their people.
You just want to have them on their fold.
You just need to have them at your beck and call. I'm simplifying it, but that's really where That's it. That's really where we're going.
So it
So notice that although the government say we are inviting these other foreign agencies to help us with this massive investigation, it is only the FBI and the alphabet soup of Jamaica's own FID, MOCA, whatever,
whatever,
the others, right. Bailey said that the joint investigation was gathering steam. It's a joint investigation that is ongoing. I am not going into details, but they are making significant progress, he told reporters. Approximately $3 billion is believed to have been fleeced from dozens of account holders, including retired sprinter Usain Bolt, who has lost $2 billion. A former wealth advisor of SSL has reportedly admitted to stealing much of the money. A search of 2 premises connected to her was carried out last month, resulting in the seizure of documents and electronic devices. Someone said to me that the lady was running a bank and not SSL, you know.
She was running a bank.
She was running a different, yes, because she had created books for the business she was doing. So when they went and seized those information and devices, they would have it. So when the money comes out anonymously from SSL, or SSL was not even a pass through, it maybe literally passed through, you come to the building, put it there, and then it went somewhere else. She had a private bank that she had running. So all the names are there. I pray that this lady live long enough to give birth, that they can get everything that they need. And yeah, I pray that it is so. And then you're going to see the same with the ones that I call the usual suspects. You're going to see the same names popping up.
They could keep the usual suspects.
Yeah.
They know themselves, so we're calling out usual suspects. Come.
I believe they're walking around very uncomfortable at this point. Very, very uncomfortable.
You think even what happened, a lot of money laundering probably happened in it?
I think so. I think so. Remember, you know, that money laundering is really, let's call it then, unexplained wealth. It don't have to be, it's tied together with money laundering and terrorism. And we always move as if it's drugs. It don't always have to be drugs, you know. If you, unexplained wealth, meaning you are a lowly clerk in a bank, you get $5 million per annum. You will never be able to explain why you have 20 million tucked away somewhere.
Unless somebody give it to you.
But your role now might be, when the thing come to the bank, turn a blind eye. Your cut is over here.
Okay.
Because these things that are happening can't just happen on the fringe of society. They're going through the banks. Wire transfers are being done.
If I'm getting money,
yeah,
and my money is legitimate, but my present employment don't explain it.
How can it be legitimate? You mean you have a side business? That's what you mean? Right, okay.
Or, like with me, a man does for me and say, no, I don't know the man from other man him come and say, I bless with $1 million US.
Right.
That would be money laundering.
Depending on where him getting $1 million US
Suppose
from.
a billionaire decides to bless me $1 million US. I'm just asking.
Yeah, if you can explain it. Remember, it's unexplained, and you're giving me explanations.
Okay.
So,
that's an ask still, you know.
But still, you are under a duty to verify the source of the money.
So if a man come to me and say, you know something like you, me hear about on the program and I want give you money.
Yes.
I have to ask him, where you get the money from?
You should, depending on how much it is. I mean, there are some things you can infer, like, okay, he comes and you know him to be a businessman or to be doing X and he's giving you $10,000. You can assume that a businessman of his stature can afford $10,000. But it may not. It may be someone whom you don't know at all, who is offering you a sum of money that for you to put it in your bank, in your account, you have to explain it. And it would not be to say, oh, a man that I met yesterday gave me. But more often than not, money of a certain amount is going to pass through a bank. So you'd wire it to you or whatever. And what you would need to do to your bank, if it is a sum outside of what you would normally have, you would say to your bank, it is a donation from X. And they might ask you to give them the papers for X. If X is a corporation, can I have a copy of the certificate of incorporation? And you, if you're taking that kind of money, would want to know who are the shareholders and the director of X company. But you would be okay in thinking that if it is coming to me from X bank, that bank already cleared the money. Yes, yeah.
So
but if it's money in a paper bag, or you had a good service, but it never that good. And when you reach to the offering plate, somebody has put in, tied up in a bag, $40,000 for argument's sake. Do you jump and praise Jesus? Or do you say to whoever passed around the plate, who put that money in?
Yeah. Because
churches are on the list of suspicious entities for money laundering.
Yeah, I know it would be because because I've heard, like when in the heyday, pastor come and in church and him thing pass in the plate and him say, what is this? But him no put it there, where must be the money? You carry on the offering plate and the bucket head over there and somebody drop it in the plate.
Yeah.
What do you do? Report and say this offering we collect today, So you explain that.
Well, look at it this way. If the bank, if you take it to the bank and say, this is the offering I collected, they won't necessarily know that only 2 people were in church. They may think you had that 10,000 people. And so you have this cash. But you, the pastor who see how it came to you, should be alive to the possibility that you are being primed.
You've been set up.
Yes, somebody may come and say, all right, pastor, you see them big wad of money you've been getting? I need you to keep this bag.
Okay.
Or whatsoever.
And just, it's true. Online, you see this thing about illicit thing. That,
unexplained wealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Integrity Commission referred to MPs for making false declaration and for illicit enrichment. Were they and are they joined in anyway? And who those are?
We shall find out.
We shall find out.
One of the things that that is good about this world of electronic communication and so on, there's a record of almost everything. And see, we are already using it in our discussions to say, this was already stated somewhere, we know it, and we are making connections. And that's what the police and the investigators do. They make connections between things happening now and information that was already out there or things that were already known. So one of the things we see here, if you thought that the arrests and some significant update on what is happening in the investigation of major crimes, if you thought that it was because other investigators are muddying the water, no. It's only a raft of Jamaican agencies, which to us is one. No matter how many little factions they have, it's one. It's Jamaica and the FBI are having discussions about how to proceed. And the only discussion that could delay the making of arrests and the laying of charges is who gets what. America is going to want to extradite some people because the crimes committed are cross-border. And Jamaica is going to want to do the same, keep its people because the offenses were committed here.
Yeah. I'm reflecting on things that have happened in the past in terms of your listening here about the drug lords and how do they get that amount of money in the system that they are billions? How them do that?
That they have things in the bank?
Yeah.
That's why, let me tell you something. You heard me say at the start, I'm owning it, that there are certain things that cannot happen without the complicity of the commercial banks in this country. Cannot happen. Cannot happen without the complicity of the banks. Yet, you have never heard one of the big banks being named, being sanctioned, being put under investigation. You don't hear it. If it is happening, you don't hear it.
Because we heard
That is
recently.
Bank of Jamaica, and that would be the FSC for some of the things. Because most of the banks all have a securities trading desk or business.
Yeah.
So that's FSC. They have commercial licenses. That's Bank of Jamaica. FSC has fallen because they've been exposed with the SSL issue.
Right.
And now Bank of Jamaica own everything. And to me, they're no better than the FSC. No better.
So the question is, so if
So you ask,
asking that, yeah,
how do they get so far and accomplish so much? Huge housing developments that they have done in this country. Complicity in the banks and a failure on the part of our regulators to act on either what they know or to scrutinize the affairs of the financial sector so that you can pull out the information. And I think that's why you notice from time to time you hear that Jamaica and the Caribbean blacklisted. They can't establish safe banking relationships. We do business with South Africa. We can't send money directly to South Africa. We have to go through PayPal or we have to find some way through America. You can't, in a Jamaican bank, in this day and age, say, I want to do something in rands. They have no relationship except through. Now, you can say that that's part of the colonial oppression and domination of the people, but in all truth, there is some legitimacy to the concern that we don't regulate well. And when you see this happening here, you know we don't regulate well. It's not like we're going to keep out the terrorists and the money launderers from Colombia and wherever else, but in Jamaica, we go be loose with ourselves because, you know, we have brethren.
So the brethren.
We no regulate well, full stop.
Wow.
We find ways to bring into our economy whatsoever we want, and is the people at the top of our society who do it. They can call a bank. Hell, they own the bank. Somebody must own the bank, you know, the banks that we inherited. I heard somebody say Barclays Bank on air the other day. Do you remember?
Yes.
Somebody inherited Barclays Bank. It's now NCB. It was Mary.
Yeah, Mary was talking
Good morning,
about
Mary.
Mary was talking about Barclays Bank.
She said something about Barclays Bank.
She used to work there, remember?
Yes. So somebody had to inherit the bank. And they couldn't leave us without banking facilities where we have to send to England to change a check. So, you know, they kind of cross their fingers and step away. But we then began to treat the bank the way we would treat our disposable cash.
I mean, we mean in leadership.
Leadership, yes. They took over from the white people who were doing anything too. So now we can't be trusted. They know why they're saying we can't be trusted. They know what they used to do. And they see us doing the same thing.
So pick up the generational thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you don't know you got this man when you're talking about the things generational, you know, and breaking it and declaring a new day, a new system and so on. It's serious.
Yeah.
It's just kind of running through the DNA of our country. And you always take down and say, oh, that sounds a good thing, but did it say one time on the program, say Nancy away with national hero. I said, no, man, that was a good time. Was using our brain and think, but in another way, you have to be careful, you know. Yeah, you know.
Wisdom. That's why when we talk about engaging the wisdom of God and the counsel of God in how we make decisions, in the choices we make, that's what will keep the Anansi spirit in the vein of speaking to dry bones and bringing them to life, in the vein of the little man finding that nugget of gold that he can turn into something beneficial to his nation. Because we will always be a small nation.
They're not going to change. Even though
That's not going to change.
Way above our weight. So we're
class.
lightweight punching in the heavyweight class.
Yeah.
In terms of a lot of things we do, but this thing about regulation and being people of integrity and all it's crucial, you know. Because it's acting as a major deterrent, a major hold back, major push back in terms of prosperity for everybody in
For everybody.
our country, not a few people. I mean, it just grieved me, man. Man, somebody was talking to me yesterday, and I was explaining to them, was saying that's thing, the dry harbor thing, in terms of doing the work in there. It's not a new concept, new idea. I remember the gentleman, he's dead now, and I met him, and we were just talking, and him said, I have this, and we were driving, and him said, right there, so it's where we're going to have the dry harbor and thing. That's over like 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. And then I saw him, and him said, I lose it. He had the document, remember? And he was in a tizzy. I don't know where it is. He did recently deceased. And I see it come and say, okay.
Somebody has taken it.
Yes.
You don't know how many good ideas regular people have had.
When they was talking,
they
people
go to try and
after,
get it funded.
People are laughing after time, and I'm saying, and I'm looking and I'm saying, but that was the same
It's not
thing.
even a novel idea. Any country you go that have seaside and develop trade and activity, seafaring country, they have it.
And then we have the CMU that was right there, and it just fed right into what he was thinking. I mean, saying, oh, Lord.
You have your good idea. You have the competence to execute it. You need to be able to go to the banks. When you go to the bank, somebody get your idea, ship it up the line.
I've seen that happen to too many people.
Covetousness and malice steps in. Before you know it, you are out there somewhere looking at your documents and wondering, how did I get
You see how
here?
heart important?
Yeah.
You see how important heart is?
Yes, sir.
Your heart is crucial, man.
And that's our story. Over and over and over again. Taki says, never be over or too trusting of the colonial powers to solve our problems, though it's good to judge what they are doing. Straight up said Barclays Bank became Workers Bank, and then Workers Bank morphed into NCB. It's the other way around?
No, because
that's the same part.
No.
But is that Workers Bank of
Workers Bank was separate. Delroy
No.
Lindsay was Workers to make NCB. You have Island
Workers
Victoria,
Bank?
Workers Bank, Eagle Merchant, Century National.
It's history. Before it was renamed NCB. Yeah. Because Delroy Lindsay's Workers Bank was the second Workers Bank. It was not the first Workers Bank. There was another Workers Bank, right. Yeah. All right. Some historians are amongst us, and right. But the point I'm making, they still have Barclays Bank in the BVI.
Yeah, man.
So Barclays Bank is the British bank that the colonials would have used. When they were leaving, it was still here because you couldn't leave the islands without banking. You couldn't say, I don't trust those people. Let them start their own bank. So Barclays Bank was here, and then the rebranding and renaming took place. What we have done with the banking, the financial sector, is just something beyond reckoning. And it's always under like a shroud of mystery. The interlocking ownerships. And then came that time when the merchant banks became the thing of the day, which really for me, what I saw was a lot of well-heeled Jamaicans who couldn't get into the traditional banks, the commercial banks, began to put their money under their own management so they could fund themselves, and that has continued. Then you begin to look at who sit on the board of directors of these various banks. I know at least one commercial bank whose one of their director was also an architect or a developer, both. And he sat on the committee that looked at proposals for loans coming from the market of his own competitors.
That's just
an example.
We understand. And just the quick thing that he was saying. So Union Bank was made up of Citizens Bank, Eagle Commercial, Island Victoria, Workers Bank, Citizens Merchant Bank, Corporate Merchant Bank, and Island. Those were what became Union Bank.
That's the modern. Right, but that's modern time now. You want to look at what happened from Barclays Bank,
Yeah, so we have to
because Barclays Bank was throughout the whole region.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our break. It's 9:30. You go, Percy.
Good morning. Welcome back. We were just doing some history. So what I was saying is that Barclays Bank really became National Commercial Bank because it was acquired in 1977 by the government of Jamaica. And then in 1985, it was incorporated as a holding company in order to reorganize the structure of NCB and its subsidiaries. But then there was Union Bank, which was a
The
union,
FinSAC, that
the
was
FinSAC
in the FinSAC years
FinSAC
now.
entity with Workers Bank, which remember Workers Bank was a bank owned by the workers.
A co-op,
A
yeah,
co-op.
People's Co-op.
And there was Eagle, Jamaica,
Central
Eagle,
National.
Central National, Eagle, and Citizens Bank, which was wholly a Jamaican owned bank with Elon Beckford. Remember Elon Beckford?
Sagicor came out of
Union Bank. Yeah, right. Interesting.
Yeah. So what you see is a history that is filled with predation. Are you sure they're hearing you? Because you seem so far away. LOJ became say, oh, hello. Come on over. All right. I think we're gonna be visited by royalty. Ligani Club royalty, that is. It would be lovely to have a chat with the manager. To wrap up our segment, I started it this morning paying homage to Ligani Club and, you know, the time we spend here and how they accommodate us. Wouldn't it be wonderful to close with a chat with the manager? Giving Lowell all kind of problems now because he has to find a mic for her. And he was giving me banking history. All right, we'll do banking history next time. I got to commend the government has established formal relationships with Sierra Leone. They opened and they've opened what do you call it now? They have opened a consular office here.
That's great.
Yeah, on Red Hills Road. I love it too that they're not trying to squeeze themselves into New Kingston or where the other people like to be. Sierra Leone is forging stronger trade links with Jamaica. This is part of the push we spoke about, former Prime Minister Patterson being at the lead of it. But this picture now is of Miss Kamina Johnson-Smith. I was going to call her Nana. Remember she went to Africa and...
That's her name? She cut off her hair?
She's never had much hair. What do you mean she cut off her hair?
It looked much...
It's curly now. Yeah. Percy, you look at it and... Oh, I bless you. You see the details. This is a picture of Sierra Leone Minister of Tourism and Culture, Dr. Pratt, and Jamaica's Foreign Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith, as they cut the ribbon to mark the opening of a new consular office in Red Hills, St. Andrew. We should visit them.
Red Hills?
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, Red Hills.
Red Hills. Yeah, man. They're putting their office amongst the people. And there's a short coverage on it. There's an effort to forge stronger trade relations between Jamaica and Sierra Leone. The West African state has set up a new consular office in Red Hills, St. Andrew.
And Sierra Leone is very important in terms of the history of Africa. Remember who were this? It were slaves that founded Sierra Leone, wasn't it?
No, you can't pull up the history and tell me. But Kamina is delighted that Sierra Leone has now established a physical presence in Jamaica to complement the very able leadership that High Commissioner Y has been providing from Washington. So let's see what happens. They're here now. What it requires is for Jamaicans of all walks of life to take an interest in learning about the opportunities that can exist between the two nations and actually pursuing something. Professor Rosalia Hamilton is our newly appointed honorary consul to Sierra Leone, and she says she's looking forward to doing amazing things. Now, look at this coverage. I think not even the journalist who covered the piece invested the time in researching what are the areas of commonality between Jamaica and Sierra Leone. I think we will have to do that. Let me make a note.
Freetown, Sierra Leone commemorates the nation's slave trade history with the Cotton Tree landmark. Both were known as places of refuge for returned slaves in the 18th and 19th century. you know what I'm doing? I'm mixing it up with Liberia. But Liberia is pretty close to.
And I think Liberia is one of the countries that promised land to Jamaicans
Yeah.
who want to be repatriated.
Yeah. So.
But I tell you, my son's school has been, they've been doing a study on African nation states. And he almost every week he produces a little book.
Okay.
And I told him I want to take all of his work and create one big book that we can use as a guide to trade in these African countries, because it goes through, you're doing a social studies thing. They look at the basic things you must know about each state. And I've already booked his book. I want to get his
You're going
book
to self-publish it?
and see. Yes, I
You
will.
probably should,
I will.
I see a lot of young people self-publishing, creativity, and as you have.
But I find it very useful, even in my own interaction with.
But even
all
as you've
things
spoken
African.
about, it is our culture that's going to make us rich.
Yes, the wealth of our
the
culture.
is going to make us rich in this time. So we just need to ensure
Lay the proper
foundations
Yeah.
and say to our young people, it is the culture, the rich cultural heritage that's going to be the next frontier in terms of wealth. But
And
then-
I'm seeing the book because all his cover page, the book cover is the flag of the country.
right, so,
So I can see that being the divider between the chapters.
right, so
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I let him keep working. I just said, please remember. Mommy and daddy pay for all the photocopying and the, and the
Jesus.
delivery, because we have to
no.
deliver it
Oh,
when it has to go in. So we have a stake in the book. Let me see.
Yeah,
Taki
but
says,
speak already in the book already.
yeah, Taki make a point there that just kind of made my heart fall. He says it's interesting to note why those banks like Workers Bank, etc., relinquished positions and their transformation. As I read it,
Relinquish position and their transformation.
yes, because there was a time when,
They were transforming.
including local, bankers and a wave of local professionals stepped into the market
And we're doing
and
great.
were having impact. They were having impact. And then came the time when they were being swept together in one basket of failed banks.
And what caused
And
them to fail?
The entrepreneurs, the men behind it, were being hounded and threatened with prison. And then when it comes out of it now, the banks are back in the hands of the limited, small descendants of the planter class. That's what happened,
Yeah, but because I remember, and that happened in
So he says it would be interesting to note why did these banks
but
lose their position,
But you know what
and
happened?
the transformative effect they could have.
That they were having,
Yeah.
because there are principles of business that you sow a seed, you're going to get a harvest. And
Are you saying it's their fault because they never sow good seed?
that is a part of it, but then there was the regulatory environment that did a lot of other things. Because if you hear a story of this happening and somebody saying to you, there's ways of doing this. Like if you are taking a loan from the bank, right? Take your land title to the bank. They're supposed to hold it. But then they don't hold it, but you go to different banks with the same people and getting. Somebody actually told me that. It's not hearsay. 1, 2, 3, 4. That same piece of that land title got 4 or 5 different loans.
For whom?
Or the same person.
The owner?
Yeah.
So you took your title to the bank.
And they're supposed to hold it as collateral.
Right, but you somehow leave with it,
Yeah.
and went somewhere else and use it 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And somehow in the process of, so that's fraud. You have perpetrated fraud.
Yeah.
But you were able to get away with it because the regulatory framework was not such
Yeah.
that it was picked up.
Yeah. quick enough, yeah.
Yeah. But listen, you and I did a thing.
And so,
I
no,
want to
so
show you something. Remember when you and I
it went
showed
to the
you,
different,
I
yeah,
showed you that the financial sector is an intermediary.
right,
It is a medium through which things flow.
correct,
I show you consumers on one hand borrowing money and manufacturers or producers of goods on the other hand. They too borrow money, but they also invest money, and it's all coming here. Then we end up with the intermediary
making all of the
being
money
bigger
than
and making more
the two
money.
people that they're supposed to be serving.
And I'm telling you that this is a false narrative. This must fall. So just imagine your person who took one title and borrowed from 4 different institutions. They are, in effect, lending to themselves. Because he take the money from one, he go put it in that bank. He take the money from another one, it goes into the thing. But it's the same dollar that is moving around 3-4 times. It must crash.
Yeah. So, and then one of the other things that people do, that's why I need that FinSac report, you know.
Yeah. But
Because
this year,
you always speaking to the, the what you call it, usual suspects.
yes. But when the middleman
Become so big
becomes the wealthiest
person. in the-
partner,
Something wrong in it. Something wrong in it. Something wrong.
you're in trouble.
Something wrong.
And you're absent fraud, even with fraud, because when the fraud is brought to light and you reconstruct and the true narrative is made evident, you will definitely find that somebody has crashed
Yeah, man.
in the process.
Somebody did crash. We did crash.
Well, may I tell you, say SSL is heralding another crash. Because by the time you parse through the model and realize that this one is still holding some of that, and that one facilitated that, and who not indicted for high crimes and misdemeanors will be left, will have to give back
Everything.
and but it is a necessary bloodletting. Would you believe it? That it's time for us to close the show. I thought that she was gonna come across to us, but yeah, the time for it has passed. I see her in conversation across the way. We were gonna spend some time chatting with one of the marketing manager for Ligony Club, who is looking quite beautiful today. I think she came prepared for a camera moment, but our time has run. Amazing to me when we start the morning and the hours are stretching ahead of us, that we get there so quickly and still feel like there are a couple of things we didn't get to say.
But, you know,
But I think we will get our opportunity if the Lord wills it.
we come again. But just to say, there's so many things, but it's so many things.
After 4 hours, Percy, you cannot be saying there are so many things.
No, man.
You
but
must
no,
have taken a few of them off the list.
but so many things in terms of things that we need to correct. I believe, are at a moment in our history that is an opportune time to fix in one fell swoop a lot of the injustices that have been so present in our society in terms of the political economy, the economy itself, in terms of the justice system, in terms of governance structure, because whether we like it or not, Minety, all of these things are related, don't you think?
They are related.
Interrelated.
Yeah, they are. They are. They're related in terms of the personalities involved and the impact and effect that it has and will continue to have. So let's see what happens in the coming week.
Yeah.
Much excitement awaits us, and we have decisions to make and things to do and places to go.
Much
so
excitement.
Please have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you, those online and on air who have been a part of the conversation. And back at the studio, thank you, Lloyd. Have a great weekend. Thanks to Lowell and Percival for being kind of like the wind beneath the wings of the show this morning. Have a great weekend.
It wasn't me. Taki said it wasn't me. And she comes when we are closing the show. It wasn't me.
We're off air?
It wasn't me.
Sure. Are we still on? Are we still on air, or are you
Yes,
taking
ma'am.
a break?
But this is us. This is us at JD.
Wow, I love this. All right, so we were hoping to have a chat with our beautiful market manager at the Ligani Club, but she's gonna have to make time for us another week. Oh, okay, all right. Well, we were busy doing our thank yous, but
Speak, beautiful lady.
Morning, everybody.
good morning, Miss Jan. How are you?
I'm good. Is it too late to say Happy New Year?
No. This is it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year from the Ligani Club family.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys. So, promotions for Ligani Club. Well, we both know that Valentine's Day is just around the corner.
You might
Next
want to
Tuesday.
get a little warmer with your microphone
It is-
so we don't miss what you're
Can you-
saying.
Okay. So Valentine's Day is coming up. It's not on the weekend. It's a weekday.
Yes.
So while we would tie it in with our rooms, we basically just have a Valentine's dinner.
Okay.
Right? But people are welcome
people
to
are
stay
saying
over.
dress.
If they're too full, they can stay over, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Why not, right?
That's a midweek.
Exactly. So JD's Urban, they came up with a nice little dinner brunch, and I'll just name a few things off the list. So he has a crisp, sweet red wine and white wine.
You start with the wine. That says where your heart is.
Of course. It has to
on down the page, you know,
start off spicy, And then, of course, you have the salad and pumpkin soup. Okay, he's going to offer roasted chicken with or Cornish hens.
Yes, I haven't had
Right.
Cornish hens in a while.
Yes, pretty nice. We can manage that.
Yeah.
You can have a whole of chicken, but not really a whole of chicken.
Right.
And this is served with potatoes, of course, and vegetables. Cast iron skillet loaded nachos, if you want to be on the light side. Pork rib tips, slow cooked, and some in love applesauce. I'd have to ask Jason about that one.
Love
To ask Jason about that one. They even have a seafood pasta, lobster chunks, shrimp, mussel, scallops in a beautiful blush cream sauce.
We're taking Daniel. That's all. That sounds like
So,
Daniel's.
and I mean, if you want to, as I said, you can have something light, you can have something heavy, pot pies, chicken, steak, or seafood. And
so it's a mix of
right.
traditional entrees and brunch type.
You can
small
have a
plates
lighter, right,
that can-
right.
So you don't get too stuffed in the middle of the week.
There you go. So a love starts at 14,500 per couple, and this price includes taxes and service charge.
So for the polyamorous ones among us who maybe a threesome.
Of course,
Gotcha.
all are welcomed. All are welcomed. Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
put it in,
Just pull up a chair.
No,
Although they may say three's a crowd, but hey, of course, we'll accommodate.
Come in groups.
Of course, of
for a
course.
couple.
This is a brunch, so all are welcomed.
Yeah.
All are
What
welcome.
day is Valentine's Day?
It's a
I mean, it
Tuesday.
falls on
Next
a
week Tuesday.
It's a
Next week
Tuesday.
Well,
Wow, who
we'll see.
knows that? It's
No,
Tuesday.
sister, what you mean?
Well, that is from JD's, and that is obviously the Valentine's Day special. But I would like to also add.
Oh, don't pick him up on that.
Wow! Look at that.
Let him go, sister. Let him go.
Valentine's is bad. But just move, just to introduce something for Ligani Club as well. I mean, besides World Cup, the other major thing, local champs coming up.
Oh, yes.
Champs
Yes, yes.
coming up
Last weekend in
is
March.
there. You go. Last
Don't you have a
weekend.
full house already?
So
with
we
the rooms?
rooms are going.
Books
Rooms
solid.
are going pretty much because we're having a special right now. If you lock in 2 nights, the night of the 31st and April 1st, it's a special rate
Okay.
for the 2 nights.
I know people last year were here and people had come. There are people, the KCI, the
Yeah, man,
Yeah, man, trust me.
Block out the room.
Everybody came, and it's good. It's
One or
good
two
to see
teams
our
used
young
to stay
talents,
here as well.
performing.
Do you have any teams staying in the house? I remember.
I can't say right now.
Ooh.
I can't say, but the rooms are
Celebrity
filling up.
sighting.
They're filling up. Right. And right around the corner is Carnival. And we're going to have our night specials as well for Carnival.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's wonderful to hear the club kind of, making a noise.
Of
in
course.
space.
Of
So thank you
course.
so much.
You're most
You
welcome.
came in right under the wire.
There you go.
Please leave the flyer with me so I know what food I'm to.
To order.
Consider.
To order. Oh, so it's 1, 2, 3. Come in. Oh, this was the 3.
Yeah, but I take her. You hear somebody say them still made love every day. Leave it alone.
What you say you're not going
All
to
right, so it's 1, 2.
1, 2, no. 3 plus. Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure as usual. And I'm wishing everybody a fantastic day.
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
This is
Thank
our
you.
weekend, actually.
Yeah. Because we don't do the show on Fridays.
Well, there you
So we
go.
start our weekend.
Oh,
from
happy
today.
Friday.
Yeah, I'll be trying when it comes.
You can try that out on your boss.
Oh, no. Well, I call Thursday Friday Eve.
Aye.
I say
That's
Friday
right.
Eve.
That does it too.
Yeah,
That does it
I say
too.
Friday Eve. All right.
That
Thank
does
you.
it too.
Thank
You
you.
have a
Thank you
great
very much.
weekend.
Later.
Thanks.
Good, good.
All right, guys. This is the real goodbye.
Don't forget this. Don't forget.
Is that hers or yours? Oh, all right. Yeah, so this is the real goodbye. Bye, all. See you on the other side of the week.